Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the next episode of the webinar interviews where I have Kyle Lacy from Lessonly, who's going to come and share some of his insights. And again, we're going to talk about how this impact of technology has had on the sales and marketing functions as well. So, Kyle, thank you again for taking time off your busy schedule to talk to our students and our audience as well.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Kyle, Lessonly. So essentially, I'm a faculty member. So I take a look at Lessonly. I'm thinking of lesson, it's a lesson. So what does Lessonly do?
So Lessonly's training and enablement software for what we call customer-facing teams. So that could range from sales teams at software companies to customer service teams at retail to retail sales at like a Warby Parker or an AT&T, where you have stores.
Yeah.
And so we focus on how do you do great onboarding and how do you do continuous training and practice throughout the entire life cycle of an employee.
Fantastic. Now, when you start taking a look at the concept of continuous onboarding and stuff like that, is it skill-based, or do you also see going forward that Lessonly also offers platforms where people can store content that could be one way? Because this could be something where, if I understand this correctly, is that I can actually record myself, look at how I'm doing,
Yep.
and get my manager to actually coach me on this. But do you also foresee one where you actually have people looking at content and delivering content and people getting trained on your platform?
So the way that you talk about that is what we call an external use case, where like a consultant will use it to train customers.
Yeah.
And that we don't focus on that. We say we are only for internal training. So skill-based. So there's soft skills and there's hard skills, right? We want sales reps to practice email, audio, camera, right? Webcam. Yeah. We want customer service reps to practice ticket resolution. That's why we have it. That's why we have an integration into Zendesk and Salesforce. So it's more about the skills, the skill-based training.
Fantastic. But again, as you said, hard skills can also be something where you can also quiz them and test them too, right? They could go through a training program, and then you can see how much have they actually understood it, and internalize it, and then take a look at it. Oh, fantastic. So Kyle, how do you work your magic at Lessonly right now? What is it that you do at Lessonly right now?
So I run marketing, and marketing at Lessonly is 3 different divisions. It's demand, brand, and SDR. So outbound sales. And that exists of enterprise SDRs, commercial SDRs, inbound SDRs, and then we have a demand team that's content, marketing, technology, and brand, which is designers.
Wow. So now each one of them by itself, I think, is very, very fascinating, because I think all of them have an impact eventually on the bottom line of your organization. Let me actually start picking your brains on each one of them, right? So when you take a look at branding, what is the overall kind of attitude towards marketing within Lessonly? So yes, you have towards these 3, but why is it that usually when I go into organizations, especially in a B2B organization, I ask them what is marketing, and I've heard things like marketing is a black hole. Money goes in, nothing comes out.
Yeah, well, that's probably true.
That's horrible things that I've heard. But then I ask them, who's taking care of your branding? Oh, that's corporate marketing. Who's taking care of product-related marketing? Oh, that's product marketing. And you have these silos within an organization. So tell me about the marketing philosophy in a tech-based company like yours.
Well, I think a lot of people approach marketing and software on feature sets and use cases. Like we have practice software and we help productivity go up by 40%. And that's what they lead with. And Lessonly does that. But you know what? Our competitors can say that also. So we try to take it one level above, where we say our mission statement from the very beginning when we were founded in 2012 is we help people do better work so they can live better lives. It's what Max wrote down when he first started the company. So we lead with do better work. How do you help people do better work so they can live better lives? And that is the brand. It is
fantastic.
And then training and enablement is just a component of that, right? And we have and that trickles down. So we have do better work as the mission of the company, and then we have the do better work training method. That is the methodology around how you create great training and enablement programs from Fortune 100 down to a startup.
Right.
So it trickles all the way through. And then I think great branding and great marketing teams touch every point of a life cycle.
Yeah.
So my team, while we're focused on inbound and we're focused on demand gen, because that, we got to make revenue, right? That's we're a business. We are also focused on expansion. We're focused on customer renewal gifts. We're focused on new customer gifts. We're focused on customer events, our customer advisory board. So it is marketing should be the leader in the message, and it's fundamental when it comes to how you tell the story, that marketing is leading the charge there. And that's how we think about it at Lessonly.
Indeed. It's very interesting, because what you say that you had when you talked about your responsibility, you talked about 3 pillars, but then at the end of the day, the key to all this is the branding part, right? Which is very interesting, because that's eventually what you stand for as an organization.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a story. Nobody remembers that we have a feature set. Everybody remembers that Max wrote a book and the book's great, right? I mean, so
Indeed.
It has been this way forever. It's like whoever tells the best story wins.
But I love this, because when I go in and when we are dealing with a lot of corporate training, we would go into organizations that always say that, as you correctly pointed out, your products and your services can easily be copied. What is actually the thing that cannot be copied is your brand. And brand is what makes it stick with a lot of people. And brand can actually open doors, which is the fundamental aspect of sales, if you look at it. So, because if you, these days, we actually see if you're not the best in class, you would not even be called to the table. So that's what I absolutely like, where you say that's the branding. So you said in your team, you have branding. So essentially you have people who do the designing of the brand and everything else. Now, to what extent are these people also exposed to what the customers want? Because yes, one part of branding is who you are as an organization, but to make it relevant to the audience, how do you try to get that kind of exposure in the people who take part of the branding and the design and everything else? Am I making sense out here?
Yeah. So we try to have the leader of the brand team visits at least 3 to 4 customers a quarter, and he's doing case study, like video stuff, right? And then we have a customer advisory board, and we run ideas and strategy by the customer advisory board. And they tell us whether they think it's a good idea or not.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just testing. It either works or it doesn't. We run 30 to 40 click or CRO tests a quarter. I mean, so we're constantly testing messaging. We're constantly testing whether an image is going to work. So I think that we could always be better at pulling in customer opinion, but I think we do pretty well for the most part.
And for me, it's amazing. I love the fact that you say you test, because at the end of the test and experiment, because at the end of the day, the companies that experiment are the ones that are actually going to be successful. That's my opinion.
Absolutely.
That we're going to do. And my question to you is that when you run these tests, when you run this, how do you try to make sure that your brand value does not get diluted? Because you run a very big risk of listening to what the customers want, getting into sometimes the nitty gritty of it. Not that it's not important, right? But that's for your other parts of your marketing team to get into, that we need to do certain things, but we need to make sure that the message does not get diluted. So how do you try and make sure that, yes, it's your branding design team listens to customers, listens to their thoughts as well, but how do we still stay true to what we stand for?
Well, if it doesn't align with the do better work model, which we've built internally, then we don't do it. So I think it's hard. I don't think it's as hard on the marketing side as it is on the product side.
On the product side.
I mean, it's product creep and bringing in customers and they have opinions on what features they want. I think that's probably where all companies struggle. On the marketing side, it's do better work. We have case studies that apply to each pillar. We have 6 pillars within the do better work model. And if it doesn't sync with one of those pillars, we don't do it.
Got it. So now I know that I can ask you a lot of questions on this, but someday we'll meet face to face and I
Yeah.
can go and ask you all
Yeah.
these questions, right? So let's build up on it because that's what I like. So let's say, for example, this is in my head a kind of logical flow. You need to have your brand, especially when you're going to have a lot of competitors or the topic is so new that even people do not know what to expect from it. So your brand and your story is going to be what is going to get the kind of interest from a lot of people as well, right? So, which means that I'm not saying that 10 years from now that's going to be the case. 10 years from now, you're going to be even more well known. And it could be that, yes, when they get to know you, they know your brand and what you
Mm-hmm.
stand for. But by
Mm-hmm.
that time, your product would also be well recognized as well. But right now, you're in this intermediate phase where right now you have the message, the target audience that you want to go out with your message, kind of you've done that. And then you start looking at demand gen.
Yep.
So help me understand how is the demand gen team structured at Lessonly?
Yeah, a lot of our demand gen comes through inbound.
Mm.
So we've spent a lot of time and energy on organic search.
Yeah.
So we are very lucky that we have a great organic search channel where people are just coming to the website, signing up for demos.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is SDRs. So we use a company called DataFox,
Mhm.
which sources accounts based off of 80 something market signals that we track. So are you raising money? Are you hiring a customer service leader?
Yeah.
Are you a sales hood or learn core customer? Like we have a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And we score based off of, then we send it over to the SDRs and they work those accounts as well. So it's like a 60-40, 60% inbound, 40% is driven by the SDR team.
And do SDR, so essentially inbound is people coming into your website and stuff. Do you run any other kind of campaigns to see, you know what I mean? Campaigns or marketing?
We have a marketing technology company called Sendoso that we use that does all of our direct mail.
Yeah.
So account executives and SDRs are given monthly budgets that they can use, and they get to pick different swag packs that they can send that we designed, or they can go to Amazon and pick something personalized to send, and it's all done through Sendoso and it's all tracked in Salesforce.
Fantastic.
So we have those. We have our Golden Llama campaign that we do, which is a 3-inch Golden Llama that we send out through mail, and then we have and then we do like one big direct mail campaign a year. This year we're doing a Lessonly board game.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of direct mail. So if you think about campaigns, we do paid advertising through Google, Bing, and LinkedIn, and then we have a lot of direct mail that goes out. And then we do 4 to 5 trade shows a quarter and about 16 field events every quarter.
Indeed. Now it looks, so if I take a look at this, what I really like, so a couple of things which really caught my attention, which I actually saw somebody else sharing something that got from Lessonly, the go to love and stuff, which is again proof that it's working what you do there. Yeah. But what I think is amazing is that a practice that you see a lot where every AE, which is account executive, for those of you not familiar with the terminology, every account executive or an SDR or a BDR, you say they have a kind of a budget. That is, do you pair your SDRs and AE together and do they have a joint budget? Or individually they have a separate one as well?
Individually they have separate budgets, and it fluctuates month by month based off of their usage. So, and we encourage all of them, they should be at 0 at the end of every month, right? Because the more personalization that you do, the more stuff that you send out, the more engaged. I mean, that's the idea. Sometimes people hate it, but most of the time people like, you know, if you get something from Ball State from an SDR that's trying to set up a meeting with you, you're probably more likely to answer an email from them than somebody that hasn't done any research whatsoever in what you do, right? So I mean, they get separate budgets.
My question to you, is that something unique to you, or have you seen other companies do something similar?
I mean, with Sendoso and PFL are the two companies that do this. It's becoming more unique as they get bigger. It wasn't. I mean, this This is the first, excuse me, this is the first time that I've done it as a marketer, but I think it's going to become more common.
Absolutely, because it's very interesting, because psychologically it's a question of them getting something and them reciprocating back.
Yeah.
It's very, very smart, because it's very subtle, because usually we talk about you giving it to them. But the fact is that it's not that you would not give it to them because you want to screw them or take them for a ride. You genuinely believe that you can actually help them. For me, as long as, someday I'm going to become a very, very skeptical customer or a lead. That's a different story. But the idea is that you genuinely believe that you can actually help that particular customer, and you've taken the effort to send them this. And I think it's great. I'm assuming that in the video that I saw on LinkedIn, there was also a personalized note that one of your SDRs had written, which I think is brilliant, because I don't know how you guys did it, or if it's just this person doing it, or if that's the norm that you have. Because I think these days we tell our students that when you go for an interview, the customer or the person is going to expect an email. But what if you try to buck the trend and actually send a written note?
Handwritten note, you should do it all day long.
And I love the fact that you also have this gift, which brings me to my question. When you made that decision, and you mentioned something that you came from venture capital, right, in the past. And here is my idea of venture capitals. That is, spend as little as possible initially and then try to make the loss. Make a lot of money based on trying to keep the cost of sale low. So how did you react to it when you realized that this means that the cost of sale would actually go up?
Well, it's a fine balance with making sure your unit economics are sound. So your customer acquisition can go up, your cost can go up if your average contract value is going up. So it's just a matter of balancing. And most of the time, we're looking at it on a quarterly basis. And as long as we're staying within the range that our finance team wants, then that's fine. And if unit economics get a little out of whack one quarter, because like an example, we do our conference, and our conference it's a big conference, and customer acquisition cost is going to change if you have a huge conference one quarter. So as long as it works out in the end that your unit economics are sound based off of your growth rate, then it doesn't matter. And we just tend to believe that if I can spend a little bit more on making a sales process personalized, I'll take it from an event sponsorship. Like, I'll just reallocate the budget, because I am a firm believer that is the only way that you're going to win, is tell a great story, make it personalized, and make sure you're not a complete idiot in the sales process. I mean, that's reality, right? Because all of us have good products. Like, they're all good products. Now it's just a matter of who can tell the better story.
Absolutely. I think it's very refreshing to actually hear. Again, this is usually from my idea of venture cap. Again, it's not that I have a negative thing, but the idea is that you want everybody to be successful, right? But I think this is very, very smart way of looking at things. And then do you actually at some point in time, because you want to make sure that people not abuse it, not that they're going to abuse it, but you want to make sure that they use it smartly. So do you keep track of, okay, how much did you spend? And then based on that, did this lead to, okay, I think it's going to be naive for us to say that this is going to lead to a sale, because there are so many things that could come in. But if it leads to, let's say, for example, a meeting that progressed for 3 or 4, and then you lost it because of other reasons, not because of, am I making sense out here? Is that
so we the way that we look at it at Lessonly is we actually use what's called an attribution model to track costs. So if a customer comes in through inbound, they're sent 3 direct mails, they go to an event, they go to a webinar, and then they close one, and then they expand after getting 2 more direct mails. That revenue is spread out over all the channels. Attribution, right? So inbound may have resulted in $2,000 of the $20,000 that was spent, that was made. We base our unit economics over a attribution model, not direct source, because a lot of people say, I'm going to base our unit economics off what drove the person to us, but we say we're going to look at the entire life cycle. So it's a little bit more of a mature model in how you look at it. Most venture capital firms, if they're good, will allow their portfolio companies to exist and run it the way they deem fit.
Indeed. I'm,
And
sorry.
no,
I'm
that's
glad you
okay.
mentioned this. The weirdest set of people I've taught about sales and sales management was a bunch of venture capitalists. Not because
Well,
it's not, I'm not, I'll tell you why. Because there were a bunch of people out there, and I said, hey, are you guys interested in sales? And they said, we are interested in sales because we sit in the boards
yeah,
of these startups. So we need to be able to take a look at,
yeah,
okay, if we need to do an evaluation of an organization, we need to be looking at their business cases. We need to be looking at their funnels. We need to be looking at where they are. We need to be looking at how to allocate the costs according to these. And so that's pretty much, it's great that you mentioned something which I think is very important. It's depending upon their maturity as well.
yeah.
Because a lot of times, and that's pretty much one of the things why I'm also attracted to the profession of sales, is that sales always gets a negative rap, mostly because people don't think of it as a science kind of stuff. And science as in terms of, steps like these, not science
Yeah.
as
Oh, well,
biology.
it's about as scientific as it gets.
Any, right? And do things like these actually makes it a lot more, what can I say, holding different people accountable
Hmm.
for doing the right stuff. And I absolutely love that you have this kind of approach towards how you look at different stages, because you could lose it at any stage, and
Yeah.
holding an AE or, for example, or an SDR accountable for what went wrong afterwards is
Yeah.
also not fair to them.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times people just don't understand the cycle,
Yeah,
the customer life cycle, the prospect life cycle. The people who turn into meetings into qualified opportunities, those are like your children,
yeah,
right? You
exactly.
should understand what happened for every single deal.
Yeah,
If unless you're like a MailChimp that is just, they got
yeah,
20,000 leads. Like, you're
yeah,
trying to figure out which leads to work because you have too many,
yeah.
right?
Indeed.
If you're not that, you should know why things go wrong. Like for us, quality for us, we have AEs put in demo ratings. It's 1 to
Yeah,
5. If a meeting's done, they have to rate a demo. If we
yeah,
start seeing trends where our demo ratings are going closer to the 2 to 1 mark,
yeah.
then we pull up a flag in our funnel and pipeline meeting that we have every Tuesday and say, we don't know why this is happening. Let's look into the last 5 and figure out what's wrong. It might have been a targeting issue, might have been an A issue. That's just one example. As long as I could talk about this all day, but the alignment is what's the most important. It's like, if marketing and sales understands what's going on and there's overlap, there isn't a more powerful relationship in a software company than if that is sound, in
Absolutely.
my opinion, because the rest of this stuff, all important, but if you have misalignment between sales and marketing, it doesn't matter if your product's the best thing on the face of the planet,
Absolutely.
because it's just not going to work.
Absolutely. Kyle, so it's interesting because when I was thinking of demand gen, I should have said demand gen in terms of content, because that's how you look at demand gen as content, right? Because when we talk of SDRs and AEs, they are the other pillar that you said earlier about marketing. That is the sales
Yeah.
organization. Sorry. So it's very interesting you talk about this, because you have the AEs, you have the SDRs doing that part. So now if you take a look at content itself in terms of coming out there, there's a lot of things about saying that, okay, the content has to be inline. You need to have multimedia kind of content. That is, you could have short videos, you should have long videos kind of stuff. And what are your thoughts on this? And do you believe that your own SDRs and product managers should be doing videos, you know what I mean, of promoting that particular kind of content
Yeah.
so that it has much buy-in with the customers?
Yeah. I feel like I don't know if I would say they should be. I think it's more powerful when they do. If we have a thing that we do if we have something major happening, like we launched our new website in August of last year, and Max, our CEO's book,
Yeah.
came out a month ago. We do like LinkedIn Blitz, where
Yeah.
we encourage every employee to make a video and post it on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And and then we have voting internally on the best video, and whoever wins gets an iPad mini.
Yeah.
But what happens is that LinkedIn algorithms, you have all these people posting videos, all these people liking it, and it starts overwhelming people's feeds, and in a good way. So I think it's important. Like we don't, when I was at Exact Target, we had a pretty, we had a calendar that was scheduled where we knew we were going to do 2 ebooks a quarter.
Yeah.
We had a research report. Like it's not the same. We don't have that same type of rigidity here.
Yeah.
It's more about high level campaigns and what we roll underneath it that, it might be an ebook, it might be an event, it might be a long form piece of content on the website where we interview 20 leaders. Like we could probably be a little bit more thoughtful around that, but as of right now, it's it's a little, it might be haphazard.
Kyle, what are your thoughts about using your customers to do some of the content generation, like testimonials,
Absolutely,
like videos? And what are your thoughts? Because I don't see too many B2B organizations using videos of their customers. I'm not saying I've never seen it at all, but I'm very curious to see why is it that many organizations do not do it. One is, of course, the obvious reason is the customer says, I do not want to do it, right? But
well, it's expensive. It's expensive to do well. I'm lucky that we have our director of brand is a videographer, so he's really good at it. We try to do 2 or 3 customer videos a quarter.
Yeah.
And you know what, we could probably do a better job at marketing them and showing them, but most of the time it's just the cost.
Yeah.
The barrier of entry to do a video is just high. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yes. No, but you answered the question. But the reason why I'm also asking this question is now you see a lot of things. We were talking, for example, I see a lot of videos on LinkedIn right now with people holding their phone. I've seen, for example, somebody who's a CMO or one of the certified Marketo folks.
Yeah.
I see it as being shared by the people, but essentially they're walking on the street and they're recording it. So essentially, what do they call it? They call it low fee, like a high fee, like a low fee kind of recording. Why is it that we need it to be great? Why can't we think about it as something that's spontaneous? You see what I mean?
And we do that. I think spontaneity is the key there, and you can't plan spontaneity. So it's kind of like, you know, we at our user conference in October called Yellow Ship, we'll probably do some of those with customers. As you move up market into enterprise, it's much harder to do that because you got to get a bunch of approval and all that crap. But another for customer perspective, we spend a lot of time on G2 Crowd and Trust Radius, which is customer reviews. And that's a great tool to use to get people involved where you don't need like this high fidelity video shoot. But I think part of it's spontaneity. I think the other part is spontaneous videos, sometimes like LinkedIn videos, do not tell a story very well because they're not good at it.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody that's really good at storytelling, they're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to make the video the best way possible so it engages. It's like that's why we don't have a bunch of shows on Netflix that are shot with iPhones. Yeah. Maybe we should, but that's the reality, is that great storytelling sometimes is high fidelity.
High fidelity. No, that's what low fees. No, high fidelity against low.
Yeah, low fidelity. Yeah, and I only know that because Lessonly, we go against the grain on you shouldn't be doing high fidelity training. It should be low fidelity training, which is why our software is very simple to use and that type of stuff. But that's the only reason I know that.
Interesting. Now, for Kyle, so you talked about the fact that so you have your demand gen folks. So for me, that is typically your product marketeers working together with people who have kind of field experience as well and trying to come up with content, developing value propositions, that kind of stuff, right? And then you're going to have your sales organization, which is going to be doing all the things in terms of once a demand gen comes in, once you go through this, then your SDRs are going to pick up. Now, how does it change into when you talk about enterprise customers? And I know that you're a tech-based organization, but in enterprise organizations, do you have key account managers who physically go visit customers, or the AE take part of that as well?
Yeah, the account like even our account executives across the board and CX reps, they visit customers and prospects.
Okay. So, and for some of them, for example, do they have very, very clear goals about, okay, if it's an enterprise client, this is the amount of times we actually are going to visit them and develop key account plans? Is that something that you do like any other big organization as well?
No, because we leave it up to the CX rep to make sure they're giving the best experience possible. And if they have to go meet them 5 times in a quarter, they will.
Go ahead.
An AE has to be in front of their prospects every quarter because each of them have to do a field event. So they're in territory anyway.
Good. So one of the things that I am passionate about right now is the concept of customer success. We had the CEO of Bolstra in one of these previous interviews that I did as well, Harish, and last year I had to give a small talk at Pulse, which is by Gainsight.
Yep.
And we are doing me and a bunch of geeks, we are working on understanding the role of the customer success and how it is going. And we want to even bring it into the classroom in a sales class. So we actually had customer success introduced in a sales technology class.
Oh, great.
My question to you is that, do you at Lessonly believe that when you do, or if you already have your customer success reps, would they also fall under your team?
Would customer success fall? No, I mean, do they fall under my team now?
Yeah.
Is that what? No, yeah. They're in a completely. It's like we have a VP of customer experience.
So you call it customer experience then, right?
Yeah.
So who's responsible for what can I say? Keeping the churn rate as low as possible? Is it your CX folks?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be your account executives?
CX. So an account executive will sell a deal in commercial, will hand off to a CX rep. In enterprise, they'll sell a deal, and then the AE will hold on to the account with the CX for a little bit. So CX is responsible for logo retention, but also the company is responsible for net retention. So we want expansion opportunities. We want to upsell. I mean, that is why you exist as a software company, is to get net retention to that 120, 130 mark, right? So, so CX owns that, and and then customer marketing is shared between CX and my team.
Fantastic. So when you have CX, now I'm asking you to put yourself in the shoes of your colleague that unfortunately I cannot ask the question. So what are some of the key performance indicators? So for example, an organization, a customer of yours might say, we're going to buy Lessonly solutions, right? But they might have problems with their own employees using that as well. And your biggest threat would be that your customers and the people within their organization do not end up using Lessonly, so that the questions would be asked at some point in time in terms of saying, is Lessonly the right platform? And it fails not because Lessonly is the right platform, but it's not well used within their own organization. So,
right.
So is the customer experience team also responsible for proactively looking at this, or are they responsible only for saying when the customer has a question about a particular experience part, they jump in at that point in time?
It's all proactive. I mean, it's from the very beginning, it's been a differentiator for us at Lessonly is the CX team.
Okay.
They are by and far why we get such high NPS scores, because they are proactive. You watch user counts, you watch usage of the product. Like it's across the board.
Indeed. So that's pretty much what we see in terms of the customer success. So you call it customer experience.
Yeah.
So when I was talking to, not just with them, but I also heard this before from a bunch of customer success folks, they say customer success is customer experience plus customer outcomes.
Yeah.
Yes, I can deliver a great experience, but if the customer does not get what they paid for, they might say it's a great experience, but I'm sorry, I'm not going to invest more on this as well.
Yeah, and that is alignment. I mean, it's all of this is alignment. If the executive team is not aligned, if sales isn't aligned with CX, if marketing is going off on their own, telling stories about the product roadmap that sales is selling that has no rhyme or reason to no connection at all to the actual product roadmap, you're going to sell a bunch of crap that the customer is going to hate, and then they're going to churn.
Yeah.
So CX and sales, product, everybody has to be aligned so that the story you're telling is is exciting, but it's not over the top. And if you're demoing a product that doesn't exist, you've already lost. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that. And we made the decision early on that we were not gonna do that. So it's taken a lot of time and energy to build a product launch strategy that includes sales, CX, and marketing and product that actually makes sense and does it in a way that it's not like you're basically lying, because that's how I take it.
Absolutely. Yeah. But there are always companies that say, let's get the customers first and then build the product. So that's
no, I know. Yeah. And I think if you can tell the story and you get people on board and they're your beta customers and they understand that they are helping you build the product, I am all game all day long. But if you have customers and you're telling them something's coming down the roadmap and it never appears because you actually were never planning on building it because alignment wasn't there, then that's a problem. I'm okay with you saying this is coming and then you miss it because your product team needs to adjust their build schedule. But if it never happens, then that's just unfair.
Absolutely. Well, it's for me, that's I've heard companies that have said they're going to invest after that, but which would mean that they would rely on their customers to fund part of it. But again, but the key there is how do you communicate to the customer? Right?
Absolutely. It's all about communication.
Absolutely. From that viewpoint. Kyle, so when you decided that within Lessonly, marketing is also going to have sales underneath. When I mean sales, I'm now talking of SDRs and
SDRs, outreach.
Yeah, you and I can always say demand gen is going to lead to sales, so that should also be sales. Branding is also going to open doors, that's also sales. But let's based on how many components. When that happened, how did your sales team react to it? Because I'm assuming that when you said you're going to put them all from the beginning, you were like that, or you decided to do it last year?
It happened the same time we were redesigning our website. So it was August. So it was two quarters ago.
Yeah.
Sales reacted positively to it because we had been going through a lot of challenges with the SDR team before that, and we didn't pull them out. We kept everybody, sales team and the SDRs all live in the same part of the building. And they all go through the same enablement, and there's still the same career path for an SDR to become an AE. Yeah. So the only thing that really changed was they moved over to marketing. We put more process around what they did. Yeah. And they started to perform. And if they would have moved over and we would have underperformed, sales would have been pissed for sure. But it worked. So it's always easier to look back on when it works. I have plenty of stories of things that didn't work, but so they didn't. It was the right move. Everybody knew it was the right move, and they started delivering meetings for AEs that they weren't before. So it worked.
So one of the things, one of the articles I always suggest to people to read is a wonderful article. It's a Harvard Business Review article from now 14 years ago. It's called "Ending the War Between Marketing and Sales." It's by a guy called Kotler and a guy called Neil Rackham. So, for example, people know Kotler. He's the father of marketing. Yep. Neil Rackham, for me, is the father of sales, the guy who wrote Spin Selling. Yeah. Right? They got together and said, okay, how do organizations not get together and everything else? And one of the things they say is that either having, and this is not now, this is 13, 14 years ago, they said you need to have a chief customer officer or at that time, something like a chief revenue officer. And you see that coming to pass right now as well. And my question to you is that when you become bigger and bigger, do you still see that this kind of structure with the CMO leading everything is viable, or you see that you will again have to adapt accordingly?
I think it's still viable because I see a CRO role encompassing sales and customer success. Yeah. I don't see it encompassing the ability to tell a story appropriately. What I see happening is I think the marketing org should take over the HR org, frankly.
Yeah, indeed. And I think that's
that's kind of
Yeah, because one of the things I heard, which is in another organization, which is very, very strange. When I mean strange, maybe it's normal for you in the tech space.
Yeah.
But for me was enablement went under HR.
Yeah. And that happens quite a bit.
I
It
was
doesn't
like,
make any sense to me.
you should understand that most of the companies I train are hardcore manufacturers of big pieces of equipment.
Well, yeah, because training is not, it is not common to think about that you need, oh man, this is my soapbox. If compliance is the beginning of learning and development, right? Everybody has learning and development for compliance training.
Yeah.
So when you start talking about, hey, what, like you onboard employees and then you don't allow them to practice their skills, even though we follow sports and musicians and they all practice constantly, but then we sit in an office and we're like, why would we practice? And then you tell the HR team that they need to do it and their only reference for training is compliance. It's going to break. That's the reason why we don't sell to HR ever.
And I think it's very, very fascinating. When I heard it, I was like, what? But because from my experience, see, it's not that we're not aware of what's happening in the tech space, but when we went into organizations, we went to train these engineers who would go in out there. For example, would be not that I train Cummins, but other kind of Cummins kind of companies which have these equipment, and they do it. It's not that they don't need enablement and stuff like that, but if I go tell them that HR is also going to be responsible for training and all this kind, also if need be, training your sales team, I think it will be very interesting to see the dynamic there. But I'm not ruling it out because the way you put it, you're absolutely right. Because if HR is going to be made responsible for what revenues we're going to get afterwards, they're going to get their head together around saying, how can we enable this more and more?
Yeah, and HR is going through kind of a renaissance right now where they're talent recruiting, recruitment marketing, culture, the marketing behind how do you build a culture that makes sense so people don't churn, like all that stuff. They're turning more into what I've heard recently on talent development. It's not HR, it's talent development. And that makes sense to me as long as they change out of the model of compliance and recruiting. But that's why what you're seeing is that a lot of organizations have centralized L&D teams, but each business unit has their own training and enablement people.
In fact, indeed. So we even
have that's a dotted line to L&D, but they are not beholden to like the old school side of the world, of the HR world.
Absolutely. So when they even call them HR business partners.
Yeah.
Yes, they're HR, but they're business partners in each vertical silo that you have. And then that's great. I know that your time is very, very important. So Kyle, I have one last question before I let you go. And this question is, as a CMO, you have 3 different teams underneath that. How much do you think it is important to have some sort of a common metric across all the 3 kind of, for lack of a better word, divisions that you run, to make sure that there is no silo thinking, but actually a kind of a coordinated effort towards meeting less and least requirements?
Yeah, I mean, our metric across the board is net new revenue. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, demand and the outbound team is more aligned, but brand kind of lives atop all of it.
Yeah.
Because brand might be doing a video for the CX team. They might be doing a piece for the services org. They might be doing a video for HR. So I see brand, like if we're going to get bigger, I'd probably pull brand out and make it just a studio / agency that have their customers are basically the different business units in the company. But we are not anywhere close to being big enough to do that.
But I think that makes a lot of sense, because at the end of the day, your brand is it has to live a little bit higher than that. So
yeah, you always have to.
And it's also looking at multiple stakeholders than just certain stakeholders. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for taking.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sure that we could go on forever, but this is a nice beginning, and I hope that we get a chance for you to come and address our audience. You'll come back where we can actually have other such meetings where we go in depth into one particular, for example, what would be interesting for me and the audience would be, let's break down this concept of your demand generation and your brand as well as that, and then separately talk about each. Because for me personally, I love the fact that you're focusing on the brand, because too many people do not understand the importance of a brand in a B2B context.
Right.
They just assume that brand, and I'm guilty of it. My first degree was mechanical engineering. I did engineering and I sold big industrial pumps, and they said brand is important. I said, what are you talking about? Branding is just fluffy stuff. But then what you realize is that when you truly have good, relevant competition that can copy you on your products and your experiences,
Yep.
the only thing is the built-in goodwill that you have.
Amen. Amen.
And that is going to open doors for you. And I cannot stress enough how important that is. And then I think at some point in time, we should talk about that as well. Thank you so much, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. And then that again, everybody stay tuned. We will make this available to all soon. And our next speaker will be Tamara Schenk, who's a sales enablement expert from Miller Hyman Global. Thanks.